Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Ms. Cheng Lei and her panelists.
What, no thunderous applause? Come on, guys. Thank you. It's great to be back on the stage to talk about a subject that I often cover. I moderate about a dozen of these gender equality-related forums or discussions a year for embassies, for NGOs, for APEC, for UN Women. The good thing is, it's raising awareness. I guess the frustrating thing is we're still talking about it. So today, I want to start by doing something, sharing best practices from three very different guests, but all fantastic. And the great thing that this is not a panel, an all-man panel like I had half an hour ago. We have 3 women and 1 man. So let me introduce them to you. Got Ms. Rania Nashar, who is CEO of Samba Financial Group, and let me just get the title right. Her Excellency, Dr. Sahar Nasr, Minister of Investment and International Cooperation for Egypt, as well as Mr. Michael Corbat, who is the CEO of Citigroup. Welcome.
Thank
you all. So, what are you doing in your individual organizations or governments to push for this more inclusive workforce? Rania?
Okay. Hi, Lee. In our organization, Samba Financial Group, which I was blessed that I started to work in Samba, and it's been now more than 22 years there. The beauty of Samba, and which was a Citibank affiliate then, that it has all the right policies that supports the inclusion of female in terms of pay grade, in terms of the mentorship programs, in terms of the policies that supports female towards being groomed and taken up into the corporate ladder. And as a result of that, I became the CEO of this bank.
You were telling me that you actually have no pay gap.
Yeah, there's no pay gap. It's the same, and even the promotions are not based on the gender. It's based on the competency level, on the skills, and on the qualification. And if somebody reads Samba's report, they see that around almost 10% of their employees are females, but this doesn't mean that it's a low percentage because we have very low number of branch network. So the majority of the women works actually in the head office, in audit, in legal, in treasury, in compliance functions, in corporate bank, and we have so many female that are contributing to our bank.
And Minister, what is happening within Egypt to empower women?
In Egypt, we moved forward with an ambitious and comprehensive economic reform program where we've ensured gender mainstreaming, empowering of women, because if you really want to achieve inclusive and sustainable growth, it is very important that you make the best use of your human capital. And if you take into account that we're more than 50% of that population, then we have to utilize this capital in a very effective way. So we moved on 3 major fronts. One is ensuring there is an enabling environment for women to play an active role in the economic sphere, which also requires providing some supportive services. I was just discussing with my colleague Rania that we have a family responsibility too. So how can you ensure that women play an active role? So here, the government plays an important role in providing these complementary services to be able to allow her to balance her work commitment, but also her family responsibility. The second track was access to finance, which is specifically what Rania has highlighted is making sure that they have equal access and equal opportunity to markets, including the financial sector market, and ensuring that there is no disadvantages or there's no preference or perception that sometimes women-headed enterprises are mainly higher risks, despite the fact that NPLs are much lower for enterprises that are managed and owned by women. The third track is more on the capacity building and the training and the South-South cooperation, twinning with our other countries and other institutions to make sure they have also access to markets and they're able to benefit and participate effectively in the economic sphere. Bottom line is ensuring that women have an equal opportunity and that it's performance-based. That's what we want. It's not just giving women the right for a job, but the opportunity to get the job when she applies, and there is no any non-preference treatment in that regard. And I think that is only smart economics, because this is the only way economies can grow, and this is how Egypt is fast-tracking. So we have an investment law with a clear article that gives women equal right. With all our negotiation with our development partners and lines of credit, we ensure that at least 50% is directed to women. And also in the capacity building, we're monitoring to ensure that they have equal access to these services and to all the centers of excellence available in the countries.
Michael, what's being done at Citigroup?
Well, I think first we all need to acknowledge that we've been at this a while, and we haven't made the progress that we certainly would have liked to have made or expected. And so one of the things that we instituted within our company is this strong belief around you are what you measure. And when you measure the right things, you can drive better outcomes. So in our case, we looked and we said, as an example, our company's approximately 200,000 employees. We're actually about 51% female. So a decent place to be. We actually looked and did the work to make sure that in terms of fair pay, and we did the work around the globe, we found some discrepancies, we fixed those, and we can now attest to same job, same pay for everybody, regardless. The big hole that we found, though, was actually in representation, and that is when we actually start to look at women in senior leadership positions, and a big, big gap. So one of the things that we've done is we've committed to closing those gaps. We review those metrics on a very regular basis at my leadership table. All of us have our goals, our targets that are there to be able to fulfill. And then we speak to those and we talk about the challenges, we talk about the opportunities, we talk about the lessons learned along the way and how we're going to continue to push on that path.
Right. And what about the challenges that you face? Rania, for example, family pressures, societal pressures.
Yeah. Actually, there are two main challenges for women inclusiveness in the workforce, and it's basically the men leadership to believe that women can add value, and for women themselves to believe that they have a role to play.
They're not imposters.
So no matter what the governments make in terms of laws, regulations that empower women or add to their inclusiveness in the workforce, if the social acceptance is not there or the family support where things starts actually from the family, then these rules and regulations will not be as effective as it should do.
So how did your family support you?
My family, actually, they gave me everything. The best education I had, the support, they gave me all the time. I was focusing mainly on my career, and this was very supported by my family. My father, who's an ex-regulator, he was really pushing me hard towards accepting all the challenges, and whenever I face a challenge, I should not quit and I should move on. So the family was really supportive.
They didn't pressure you to get married and have children?
I'm not married, I'm single, but actually they supported me for taking that decision. But this doesn't mean that married women are not really adding value to the society. I was just telling Dr. Sahar that female are CEOs by their nature. They do, even, the housewives, they manage supply chain, they manage the human resources,
Education.
They manage diversity, education, they're project managers, so they are CEOs by their nature.
And Dr. Sahar, what are the challenges?
So just on the family issue, because when we refer to the family responsibility, it's not just kids, but also we have a lot of responsibility regarding our parents, especially as they grow older, and I think that's also, so that's why I was referring to family. That's a challenge, and that is why it is important for both the government and the private sector to make sure that the services there supportive services that are provided and available so that women can play an active role, because still our society puts a lot of that responsibility on women up till this moment, and that's fair enough. I think it's just that we need society to be more supportive on that. The second challenge that I see is also, is there really a glass ceiling? Do we still have, because sometimes you have the percentage, as Mike said, like you have 51% where women are represented in an institution, but which positions is it the top level positions or which position? I think this is something we need to work on. Is there a glass ceiling? Is there certain jobs that are still sort of earmarked implicitly, even if it's not spelled out explicitly? Are there certain jobs where we have a bit of a barrier there to venture into these positions? And that takes me to the last point, is having women at the decision-making process on the table in the decision-making. I'm very proud that Egypt, we finally have 8 ministers, which represents 25% of the cabinet parliament, where now it's historically we have 15% of very active women parliamentarians who are contributing to the setting of rules for the monitoring of the government programs very actively. So how can we make sure this number increases even further, and that they're also here, there is no glass ceiling on which positions they can take in a cabinet?
On this subject of glass ceiling, I want to ask you, Michael, because it's more likely for a CEO in the US to be named Michael or Jeffrey than to be female. So how are you making sure that women who are in middle to senior positions do break through that ceiling?
Well, I talked about in my opening remarks that we haven't made the progress here that we would either have liked to, or realistically based on effort we should have. And what we found along the way is that it really takes the combination of the attraction of talent, of going on campus and finding the talent, getting it to the firm, and then curating that career. And the expectation is, as those people move through their careers and become managers and leaders, they also have role models to look up to. So at times what we've seen is we've been great at bringing people in, there's been nothing above them. We've been great at laddering highly, and we haven't had the right people below them. And it's really creating this continuum that has the ability to create the sustainability of getting to the right place.
And you just promoted Jane Fraser to the role of president.
We did.
First female president.
Very exciting. First female president in our 207-year history.
So there will be a lot more for people to look up to. Thank you. Right. So we only have a few minutes left, and I want to ask all of you panelists, what do you think we can do in the room to drive change? What's on your to-do list, for example, for the next 12 months?
Yeah, actually, in the next 12 months, we have to really work on more effective rules and regulations around more women inclusiveness in the economy. The governments have spent a lot on women education, women health, but this has not really reflected in their contribution to the economy. Although 23% are contributing to the economy, the female workforces, and this looks low, but if we compare it to 2 years ago, it was only 17%.
Wow.
So this really shows the accelerated growth of women inclusiveness in the workforce. But we have to do more, yet we have to have, as Michael said, more role models. The ex-chief engineer of Aramco, the largest oil company, was a female. We have the chairman of the recently merged bank, Lubna Ralian, and the stock exchange, myself, and we have to really play a role model to all the women in the country and in the society, and we have to support all the youth to draw their career path and make sure that they are groomed.
Okay, and Sahar.
One area of focus and a key initiative that we're currently undertaking is we're making sure private sector plays a very active role in the economic sphere overall, and that's why we've been working on major legislative and institutional reforms to enhance and to promote a more competitive environment. Empowering women has been a key pillar of that, especially economic empowerment of women, and through various avenues, one of which is the venture capital, startups, entrepreneurship. That's an area that we're providing a lot of focus. We've created Egypt Venture, we've created Fikretek Shirketek. We're encouraging innovative ideas, reaching out to all different governors, not just the main cities, but even cities that were sort of left behind in the past. And we are making taking the best opportunity while President Sisi is presiding the African Union this year. So we are moving forward with this initiative, not just at the national level, but doing it at the regional level. And we're tapping on expertise and resources from our different development partners. And I think that's an important issue, because sometimes you have to go with an affirmative action and move forward with initiatives so that you're able to achieve.
As in quotas and targets?
Sorry?
You mean quotas and targets?
Yes, we're working on targets, we're working on ratios, and because that's the only way you're able to monitor progress. And so that, as you started your very first statement on this panel, is we've been talking about it a lot. So I think it's important that even use that platform today to make such an announcement and to leverage also resources from private sector, but also from the government and the civil society overall.
Do you see that happening? More private-public sector cooperation on gender equality in the U.S.?
There has to be, right? There has to be, that the public sector needs to take the role of making sure that we've got the tax, the child care, the social welfare programs that give the opportunities. And then the businesses need to be responsive in the same way. And whether that's daycare at work or providing the right career opportunities that creates the base infrastructure that gives that opportunity. So I think the places where you're seeing the most advancement is where there is that partnership between the public and private sector.
I mean, you look at countries like Denmark, where childcare costs less than car parking. Compare that to the US. You know, how do you justify women taking more time off to have kids and, you know, having their careers languish?
I think from our perspective, we believe that the benefits of that diverse workforce far outweigh any costs that come as part of what's a normal life cycle. And so you simply build that into the way you operate your company. As an example, we provide emergency daycare for our employees. It's not primary, but a mom or dad gets in trouble and needs help, they can bring their child to work. Obviously around maternity, and by the way, paternity leave, both sides. Mom and dad's getting time out to go spend time with their children. And so it's not a one-sided equation, that you create the balance as part of that. And so, you know, within the company, then people start to think about those things differently. I think part of this is you've got to change the mindset.
Change the mindset. Stop talking and start doing. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our fabulous panelists. Michael Corbat, CEO of Citigroup, the only male on this very female panel. And of course, Minister Sahar from Egypt, as well as Rania Nashar from Samba. Thank you so much. I wish I had more time.